Hello everyone! Here are the best weapons for every role so you can get the smoothest clears for content in Warp Tower of Fantasy. Now, can you use other weapons besides the ones I'll talk about? Yes, but content will become more difficult, and depending on the weapons, if an entire team is doing that, it might take hours and hours to clear content, or maybe even be impossible to clear some content. Whoa! Aren't we supposed to be able to use whatever weapons we want? Except the CN community is already very familiar with these weapons. Since Warp's weapons share the same numbers as the former Reboot's weapons and matrices, that means the CN community has had almost 2 years by now to become very familiar with these weapons. Familiar enough to know that there's Powercreep. What?
No! Damn it!
Why? Weeks before Warp's release over on CN, we already had content creators expressing concern over their newest character before Warp's release, Helen, outperforming all characters who came before her. Disrupting game balance if introduced directly into the Warp server without adjustments. Lamenting over old characters like Alice being disappointing due to design flaws and low damage output. Even giving a demonstration with Reboot's first limited DPS and a DPS release 9 months later, showing that power gaps remain huge despite official claims, undermining player trust and making competitive play frustrating. This guy had the equivalent of Warp's level 15 maxed out weapons. Except there was one oversight in his comparison. He gave them the same matrices, which is something you cannot do on Warp. No equipping old characters with new Powercreep matrices, they're stuck with their own matrices, making the Powercreep even worse. It's been 2 months since Warp has been out on CN, and the players have confirmed that the numbers are nearly identical to Reboot's, and that the newest weapons are indeed the best. Looking through videos on Bilibili, guide videos, rankings in-game, random people in world chat, and random people in the overworld, unless someone is new, it's just the same 10 or so weapons that keep showing up over and over again. There was a video recently posted where someone tested the DPS of a bunch of older characters and found out that they actually do 50 billion damage? Okay, no one's doing 50 billion damage on Warp. What's going on here? Well, I found out one of the tags in the video translates to pulling pranks. Oh. So the weapon balancing is so bad that people are doing joke videos on it now. Yes. Unfortunately, Warp's current lineup of weapons does, in fact, have power creep. The CM player base already knows this. If that hasn't deterred you from playing Warp, then you'll want to know what the best weapons are for every class and how to use them, so you don't accidentally invest resources into the wrong weapons. So without further ado, let's get to the best weapons for each class. Starting with main DPS, we have Helen. She is the newest character on Warp, the strongest and the highest damage, and is very simple to use. Her weapon is this cane, but that's not what she uses to attack. Instead, it's this huge bear. To play her, you want to use your normal attacks, and if you have dodges to spare, you can do your 4th normal attack combo, then follow it up with a dodge attack. You can use dodge attacks to group up enemies, and prevent being interrupted by incoming attacks. Attacking will charge up your skill up to 2 charges. Once you use both charges, hold down the attack button to do massive damage. Starting at weapon level 7, you gain enhanced dodge attacks after using your skill. If you're already using dodge attacks after your 4th normal attack combo, or to prevent attacks from interrupting you, then the enhanced dodge attacks will go off naturally. If you want to, you can also use each skill charge one at a time. You can use a magnetic pulse relic to prevent you from getting interrupted during your strongest attack. If you have full energy when swapping to Helen, just jump to cancel the discharge skill. There was also a bug where you could also get an extra skill cast by waiting for the cooldown to finish, using 1 charge, and then doing a hold attack. But this was already patched in CN. Alright, next up on main DPS is Leho. She uses this brush. She is the 2nd best DPS on Warp. Although her DPS isn't as high as Helen's, she saves you so much money and resources. It'll make more sense when I get to it later. Let's get into her gameplay. To play her, use your skill to power yourself up. Then, well, I've just seen a lot of different playstyles. You can time your button presses so you only use her first normal attack, using dodge attacks or hold dodge attacks to prevent enemies from interrupting you, doing a full normal attack combo every time you power yourself up, then doing nothing but spamming hold dodge attacks, or doing 2 normal attacks, then holding down the attack button, then doing a dodge attack or a hold dodge attack. It really just boils down to building up as much energy as possible, as it automatically gets converted into damage. Although I do find that just spamming the first normal attack is pretty interesting. If you have full energy when you swap to her, just jump to cancel the discharge skill. Next up is Hipper, who uses this sword. To play her, use her skill to power yourself up, then spam normal attacks until you see her sub-skill is available, which is around when this attack happens. After that, use a dodge attack, spam the normal attack button until you see this attack happen. Then use your dodge attack, rinse and repeat until your powered up state ends, or you have to swap weapons to restart your rotation. Make sure to use your sub skill before doing so. By the way, if you have full energy when you swap to Hipper, make sure to jump to cancel the discharge skill. There's also some sort of bug or tooltip mistake, where she's doing more damage than the tooltip actually says. While she is good, you're going to want to save your Volt modules for the next character. Now we're on to the off-field DPS characters. Antoria, the best and most universal off-field DPS, you'll want to use her with Helen, Lehuo, and Hipper. You can fly around with her by holding the dodge button, and you can zoom across the map using a macro by doing her third unempowered aerial attack, turning your jetpack on and off in the blink of an eye during the animation, which will send you flying at incredibly high speeds. Off-field DPS weapons are the ones that control your rotation. You always start off with them, and when their skill is off cooldown, that's when you swap back to them. To use Antoria, you'll want to make sure to skip her discharge skill by jumping, then use her skill, use a dash attack, then use her sub skill, and swap off in the middle of the animation. Once her skill is off cooldown and ready to use again, remember to swap back to her and do the same thing to refresh your damage buffs. Grey Fox. She uses this key. You can travel with her by holding the dodge button, but it's not really that good. This is going to assume that you have her at level 9. To start, make sure you have a different weapon other than Grey Fox on the field. Swap to Grey Fox. If you had full energy when swapping to her, jump to skip the discharge skill, then use her skill, and then you can swap off. Remember to go back to her and use her skill again to refresh her damage buffs. If she's at weapon level 7 instead, you can still do the same thing, but you'll get less buffs at the start. You can do a more complicated start, where you use her skill, then you hold attack, then you use her skill again, then you do another hold attack, and then at this point, you can swap off, or you can do 3 more attacks, then swap off. After that, it's the same thing as if you had her at level 9. Zeke. He's mainly used to buff Lehuo. Just use his skill, then do a normal or dodge attack on the enemy, then you can swap off. After that, you'll only need to use his skill to refresh his damage buffs. Also, if you have full energy when swapping to him, jump to cancel his discharge skill. Gnono and her chainsaw pizza cutter. She can be used with just about anyone. I usually see her used in place of Grey Fox. She doesn't give you as much damage compared to the other off-field DPS characters, but if you find yourself dying a lot, you might want to take Gnono to level 9 and use her instead. All you have to do is press her skill, then swap off, and that's it. You can hold down her skill and then let go at the right time, but the extra damage isn't that much, and CM players don't bother to do it. If you're using her with Zeke, you can use her discharge skill if you want to, but generally you're gonna want to skip it. Aster and Lan. Even though they're tank weapons, I think they're important to mention here in the DPS section. DPS mains only need to invest in Aster and Lan for shattering. I'll go more in depth on them in the tank section. I just felt it was important to mention it now. Alright, time to move on to tanks, which is the strongest class on Warp. Starting with Lehuo. Now you might be wondering what a DPS character is doing under the tank section. Well, remember when I said she saves so much money and resources? It's because she's designed to double as both a DPS and a tank. All you have to do is pair Lehuo with 2 tank weapons, and you're going to do so much damage that it'll be your go-to method to keep aggro. Plus you're contributing to the team's total damage. You might have to use more dodge attacks or hold dodge attacks to resist interruption, but she largely plays the same. Aster. She is the best travel character. Hold the dash button to start flying, then move side to side to keep only one string in the air, and that's when you can press the dash button again to boost yourself forward and keep flying. You can also hold down the jump button to keep flying even further. Now for her combat, she is the best shatter character on Warp. Use her discharge skill, and then use her skill. Do a few normal attacks which will trigger her Fantasia if you have her at level 9. Hold down the attack button to do a charge attack, and then swap to your other shatter weapon to follow up with its discharge skill. If for some reason you didn't bring another shatter weapon, just keep doing Aster's normal attacks. She is not just the best shatter weapon for tanks, but also for DPS mains. What? What about King? I thought King was for DPS mains. Isn't he the best? Oh yeah, tell that to the CN player base. They'll start tearing their hair out hearing King is the best. Yeah, I don't know where this King is super meta or King is the actual best pick came from, but if that really was the case, we'd see videos of people using King on Bilibili or even see people using King on the CN servers. But there's nobody using him.
But in instances like the Bygone Phantasm, you might want to switch out a buffer unit for a weapon strong in the shield shattering category to take down enemy shields. This includes units like Samir, Yanuo, and a fan favorite King, so yes, King is back on the market again.
Okay, I think I need to explain this one. The characters you can obtain are split into 2 banners. You have to clear out the first banner before you can get any of the characters on the second one. Guess which banner has almost all of the best weapons? Yeah, it's not banner 1. King is one of the characters in banner 1. You can use King early on in single player modes like Bygone Phantasm or Biochemical Collapse. You only need to take him to level 3 to use him. Same goes for the other DPS shatter characters like Yano and Samir. Even people making guides on Bilibili think so too. DPS shatter characters got power-crept. Outside of single player, in team-based content, it's the tank's job to shatter. DPS should just go full on DPS. And if you don't have enough shatter in the team, just bring in more tanks. They can do a ton of damage with Le Huo. Since team bonuses don't work in single player modes, in Bygone, the tank setup is the best setup for mob floors. Using upgrade modules on King will force people into a never-ending cycle of catch-up. While green upgrade modules are really easy to farm and you can even recycle them for gold, the blue, purple, and red modules are not easy to get, and you're going to need a lot of them. If you start spending real money on them, it can get expensive really fast, just because of how much you need. And if you don't spend and you're free to play, there is a limit on how much you can farm each week. Anchor points have a limit, the exchange stores have a limit, your life skills have a stamina limit, so how much you can sell on the market is also limited. Here's a sheet to show a rough estimate on how much you need, which I'll show again later in the video, but yeah, you need a ton of these modules. So instead of using flame modules on someone like King, you should save them for someone like Lan. She acts as the off-field damage character for the tank, as well as some extra shatter. She's the one you'll use together with Aster to shatter enemy shields. You can also protect party members by double jumping into the air and holding the normal attack button after using her skill, but this is largely optional. The next tank character is an honorable mention going to Saki. She can trigger Fantasia at level 9, and she's really good early on since she's available in banner 1. Even later on, you can use her as the secondary tank, by constantly triggering Fantasia whenever it's off cooldown, or only when the boss puts up its shield. I personally like to use her skill immediately when loading into a new zone, just so I can get her tank buff, which lasts forever until you load somewhere else. If the skill gets interrupted before you get her tank buff, you will pretty much not be able to tank with Saki until the cooldown is over. After you get the tank buff, you can do hold attacks to get resistance to interruption that lasts for 5 seconds, and it still stays even when you swap weapons. The next honorable mention goes to Helen. Although I don't really know if Powercreep should be considered honorable. You see, unlike Le Huo, who is designed to be used in both a tank team and a DPS team, Helen is designed to be used in a DPS team only, but she does so much damage that she could also be used in a tank team. Powercreep Fantasy! Okay, now for healers. Matrices. This is going to assume you have her at least at level 7. Use her skill. If you're worried the skill will be interrupted, you can use a magnetic pulse relic. After that, you can hold down the attack button to do charged up attacks. The first charge attack will give a buff to your party members which will heal Graying Bite. Graying Bite is this annoying mechanic where if it builds up enough, you'll probably instantly die. You can do another charged attack after that for some burst healing. Make sure to skip her discharge skill. Brevi! Before combat, you have to hit a teammate with your first normal attack. This will attach Brevi's pet onto them and will give them heals and damage buffs. At weapon level 7, you get 2 skill charges which you can use for burst heals, heal Graying Bite, and to give damage buffs. Healers actually have a flex slot for their third weapon. They have a few options.
Mommy Fies.
Fies! You want to use her skill, then do a dodge attack to power yourself up. This will heal teammates near you, and it works off-field. Starting at level 12, you can buff team damage, but you have to use her on-field. As a side note, you can reduce enemy healing by doing an attack and then a hold attack. Fies' discharge skill also has some healing, so you can use that too. Zero! Similar to some old healers on the gacha servers, some old healers on the warp servers are also really good. While Zero's healing isn't very high, he is the only character to give invincibility to the entire team, although it can be a bit annoying to time because you have to use his discharge skill, and it only lasts 1.5 seconds. Considering there are boss attacks or failed mechanics that can one-shot your party members, or else deal massive damage to them, being able to stop them is really useful. It's like healing a bunch of damage before it even happened. You can also buff the team's damage starting at level 9. At the maximum weapon level at 15, using his skill while he has 5 orbs surrounding him will stack up the buffs even faster. To get orbs, you have to hit enemies with his normal attack combos, use his discharge skill, or do air dodges. Zero's orbs can also reduce enemy healing. Starting at level 12, he also buffs party members with shields, but he has to be on field to do that. Nemesis. You can boost your healing bonus by a lot with her. You can also heal with her on the field by doing dodges. Her dodge attacks also resist interruption. At the start of a fight, you gain 4 stacks of healing bonus. Use your normal attacks to keep up the 4 stacks. Starting at level 7, you can use her discharge skill to place a turret, which heals nearby teammates. Nemesis can also be used for the Nemesis raid mechanics. Go figure! Keep in mind that this guide is focused on getting rewards and not on optional ranking stuff. And here's a reference sheet for all of the modules and gold needed to upgrade your weapons. Now this is a rough estimation because there's some RNG involved with upgrading the weapons. If you're familiar with supercomputing over in the gacha servers, then you'll know what I mean. Now all of this is assuming there haven't been any changes from now until launch. Also, you can see the release order for each character on a warp in-game. Here it is! In this screen, all of the new characters are closer to the top, with each character getting older and older as they get closer to the bottom. After being familiar with these weapons for 2 years, the CN player base knows that there's power creep. That just because things have been rebalanced doesn't mean that they're balanced. And I think that's kind of sad. Some people claim that the gear matters way more and that the weapons don't really matter, but after seeing CN, I don't think that claim is true at all. And especially looking at the last few weapon levels, those are the equivalent of maximum weapon copies and maximum copies of 4-piece matrices. I feel like because there's hardly any content being created in global nowadays, and so little information making it here, that people start making things up to fill in the gaps. And then it starts spreading. Kind of like how people are saying that King is the best for shattering. Whoa! A level 15 Hipper, level 15 Asurata, level 15 Frigg, and a level 15 Yan Miao. Hold on, why are there so many level 11 and level 10 weapons on top of that? Even before opening the menu, there is a level 10 Grey Fox too. The average player is definitely not getting all of that in just 1 month of play. To be clear, I don't have anything against Shaun, but I just feel like this is really important to bring up. So, did he whale? Because if he did, that's a lot of whaling. Well, in one of his previous videos, he showcases gameplay on the former Reboot servers. And wouldn't you know it, the UID is the same as the one on Warp. When Reboot shut down and was upgraded into Warp, players received a lot of compensation, something the devs had to give when stripping a gacha game of its gacha. Someone on CN documented themselves getting what was known as Warp Energy. close to 2.5 million after claiming it daily. What could warp energy be exchanged for? Modules that new players could only dream of getting. After a week, they would be able to claim all of the rare modules, plus an enormous amount of gold and some green modules on the side. Shaon didn't mention this once in his video review. I don't know why he didn't, but I really wish he did, since it's not an accurate experience to what new players would be getting starting out on Global. He even talks about pay to win at the end, but he literally got what whales could get for free. Now, while I can't speak for new players on Warp, there was an official announcement on transfers for Global, including, quote, ratios for conversion. Now, why did they add ratios and didn't just say items for conversion? Maybe TOF veterans could be getting the same thing, and then we could be getting the same experience as that review, which I think would be great, because then people could level up the best weapons, but also level up the weapons they want to play, and if they're not good enough, they at least have an option to fall back to clear content. Or, you know, maybe I could just be reading too much into this. But they completely fumbled transfers over on CN, where players got next to nothing. In fact, they messed up a lot of things in CN. Server failures on launch, lots of bugs, constant maintenance updates with sudden changes like the monthly pass suddenly changing to be worse? Yeah, don't do this on Global. Don't suddenly make the monthly pass worse on a whim. Warp was initially met with a lot of excitement and hype around it in CN. But after all of that, now it's really fallen off and isn't really doing that well. Honestly, I don't know how things are going to go for Global. Maybe it'll be the same as CN and it just falls off, or maybe it'll be better. We'll just have to see. Okay, that's all. I hope you learned something from this video. Are you disappointed to find out that there's power creep on Warp? Did it put you off, or will you try it out anyway? Or maybe you're actually relieved knowing what the strongest weapons are since, you know, there's so little videos and guides created outside of Bilibili. Let me know in the comments because I am genuinely curious.
Like you